This is ogforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Well, all right, we're officially live. Hey, David. Thanks for doing this, by the way. And we're here at 3 o'clock Eastern time. I think you're on Central time.
I am,
right?
yeah.
2 o'clock for you. On a Saturday afternoon.
That's committed, man.
Not the prime time for a webinar or something, but I think we figured, hey, let's do it at a time that's convenient for us, and we'll get it out there. And then what's nice about these live broadcasts, this is going out on both YouTube and LinkedIn. What's nice is that the recording is just available immediately. Right. So I like that.
This was the prep for the meeting. Like, it's like Saturday. Oh crap! I got to do the thing.
Yeah, me too. It was it's 2 monitors. Yeah.
I forgot about the prep.
You had a camera set up.
Yeah.
Well, the idea was no prep. I mean, I think you had already done the prep when you did the webinar. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now. You did that with Acumatica officially, and I think you had some really good stuff, some really good attendance.
Yeah, that was shocking.
I'm trying to remember the numbers now.
At one point, Chris told me that there was 1,000 people, and that had actually signed up. I think like 400 and some attended at the end, but there was like 1,000 people that, and he had hit max capacity. So I told somebody about the webinar, and they said that they couldn't get in.
Oh, I didn't even think about that part. Yeah, just the capacity of whatever you guys were using.
Yeah, I've done
Interesting.
that too, where you see a webinar and you sign up for it, then you think, well, I could just watch the recording. I mean, so
Right,
there's
right,
always going to be a
right.
disparity between how many people signed up and actually attended. But yeah, it was a good showing.
That's really cool. Yeah, I was trying to find. I had taken screenshots and notes during that webinar. I want to find. I'll find the exact number of people that I saw. I kept like taking screenshots of it as it kept getting
Oh,
higher.
really?
But I think the main point that I took away is this is a popular topic for good reason, and the
Yeah,
stuff that you already prepared. It seems like you kind of it's hard to cram that all into the session that you did, right?
it
So
is. Yeah.
um, here's a second opportunity. I think you are doing a second webinar with Acumatica and Chris Hackett. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So there's a follow up, and I hope to kind of pick up where I left off on some things. I've received some feedback from some of the attendees, either via email or they sent me a chat um, via the partner portal and made some specific requests. And to the extent that I can, I'm going to go ahead and just show those. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, I mean, overall, the feedback was really positive, but it's challenging to kind of figure out. Like, there's so much that you want to do.
Yeah.
There's actually like you could do an entire session on just background. Like you haven't even opened up a customization. You're just talking about some of the things I talked about in the beginning, which is, what you should or should not do just in terms of publishing, because I think it terrifies people, and it shouldn't. So I think you understand that piece, and then I think maybe if you and I get a chance today, we can kind of jump into a screen and talk about what you can and can't do. But yeah, there's really a lot to digest, and I think one of the things that I had an issue with was that you have an interest in something, and then you have to go in and you have to sign up for a course, and you take it like from beginning to end, and that's just kind of there's a lot there, and there's a big time commitment. And so I figured if I could find a way to get people kind of excited about doing one or two things, then they can build on that. They learn to do one, and then they get hungry for more, because that's exactly what happened with me, is that I just learned how to do one thing, and then I'm like, okay, well, what else am I missing? um, so then in all the conversations that I have with customers trying to solve business issues, I'm like, okay, well, let's see if I can do that in the customization project. And then it just kind of kept building on that. So I've been doing it for years, and working the weekends just to try and see if there's a way that I could solve a problem. And sometimes I can and sometimes I can't, but I just thought, be good to share it. So I think there are a lot of people out there that are thinking the same thing.
Yeah. 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 We're not going end to end with this like perfectly crafted course here, right?
No.
This is just throwing stuff out there.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I built a course on generic inquiries and pivot tables in Acumatica. It was a ton of work to do it, putting the thought into writing transcripts and the flow of the outline and everything.
Right.
I love to do it eventually on low code, no code tools, but I know that's a heavy lift. And I like just being able to get something out there. So
Yeah.
appreciate you for joining me on this. And, we're both, we just met about 5 minutes before we go live here, and I didn't even realize that you're just doing independent consulting as well, just like I
I
am. Is that
am,
right?
yeah. So I work with a couple of VARs. I just do independent work. I had been an employee of a couple of VARs previous to this, and I had a friend of mine that was doing independent work, and that there's a lot to like about it. The investment is the same, the work is the same for the most part, but there's a lot more variety, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are a lot of things that I really like about it. And so far, it's like you and I were talking about previous, there's the spigot hasn't closed on us yet. So yeah,
Yeah, we've just been fortunate. Acumatica's been popular. It won't always be that way, but hey, let's ride it while it
right,
lasts, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I did find. Let's see. I'll show the screen. This was the. At one point, I just kept taking a screenshot of the Microsoft Teams meeting. You can see at one point there were 481
Wow,
people in there.
yeah,
So pretty good attendance
That
for
is.
that webinar.
That is, yeah. And hopefully with the second one, I'm a little bit nervous about, like, I don't want to build on things because you could have a different, um, audience mixture, I guess. Some returns, some new. So that's going to be a little bit of a
Yep.
challenge to kind of put that together in a way that kind of makes sense. But what I did learn and take away from that was the time challenge. And I'd already
Yeah.
anticipated that in a way, just not wanting to go through and do publishing because that's a lot of dead time, and doing typing, that's more dead time. Um, but yeah, hopefully the second one will be a little bit cleaner.
I thought it was pretty clean, and it's kind of funny. I picked up on that. You were very sensitive to that during the webinar, and
Yeah.
I have a different take on it. So, like, I have a couple of things that I could show today, um, and we'll see if I get to it. I might get to it like when you have to leave, something like that. Let's just focus on what you have. But I have a different take on
Mhm.
it, which is let's do the publishing because I have this thought of creating a course later. And so
Right.
it doesn't matter to me if there's a lot of dead time because to me, that'd be the advantage of the course. But I totally get that if you want to present something that's as concise as possible, as little dead time as
Yeah, it's
possible.
kind of hard to
Yeah.
figure out where to start. So, um, giving somebody, I wanted to accomplish a couple of things, and I think to a large extent I did that, so that somebody could feel comfortable in creating one thing and doing it on their own. Um, but then when I'm thinking about like 40 minutes, like that's not enough time.
You run out of time fast. Yeah,
I did,
totally.
yeah. Once I kind of got through like the intro part, I realized I had 15 minutes left. So then it was just like trying to get through it as fast as possible.
So, for today, we did no prep for this. That's to me what you get with the live
Right.
broadcast. But I'm going to pull up the slide that you had during the webinar with what you had on there, and maybe I'll just ask you. I mean, what's your take? Would you want to go back through some of the stuff, or would you rather say, hey, go watch the webinar and maybe let's experiment with some things you didn't get to?
Well, so I didn't get to the do's and don'ts of publishing, but I did add that to the recording in the partner portal. so
Okay.
so that is available. So I'm not sure that kind of going through that would be helpful. I did kind of talk to you about what you can and can't do. So I don't know if that's something that you want to or feel like it might be useful to start from. But as a consultant, uh, and I guess also as an end user, it would be helpful to know what you can and can't do. You know what I mean? So
Sure. Let's start there. So, kind of like starting from the perspective of a specific screen.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
Okay.
So how,
Yeah,
how
let's
do
do
I
it.
share?
Go ahead, go and get you. I think you got to pick which monitor you're going to share, and
Oh,
then
I
I'll
click
throw it on the
present.
page
All right.
here.
Screen. I guess I'm just showing the whole.
And hey, while you're pulling that out, check this out. We actually have two comments. Let me get these up here. So we've got one from XBite. That's probably Astra or maybe Ryan. Ryan, by the way, inspired one of the ideas that I brought to show today. Ryan Brown, who also pioneered the idea of doing these live broadcasts during the pandemic years
Oh,
ago. So
cool.
thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, it is Ryan. It is Ryan. So there is. Do you know where the link is to the recording for that session that you did?
I do. I'd have to dig it up in my email.
Is it on the community site?
Yeah, it's on the community site. He sent it out to everybody. So there was an email that went out to
Yeah.
everybody, all the attendees, and then there was a link on it. When he sent it out, it was a
Oh, that's
little bit early, um, and the
okay.
recording hadn't quite compiled yet. So some people clicked on the link and then they couldn't get the recording, but it's there now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just in the community site somewhere.
All right. Well, hey Ryan, maybe we could both dig it up while David's on some stuff. We also got a comment from James here. He jumped in to say he's going to watch the recording. Thanks, James. Saturday afternoon. My little like tracker does say there's 12 people watching on YouTube, which I kind of don't believe. So if you're actually watching this live, maybe chime in on the YouTube live comments there, or if you're on LinkedIn, I think I'll see those comments as well, and I can throw it up on the screen.
Right.
So kind of cool to do it live, but again, the main goal here is get it done and not have any pre or post production. So
Right.
here we go. I'll share your screen.
Yeah. Let me know when you can see it. I'm just looking at the service
All
order.
right. I can see it, and maybe you could zoom in to like 110 or 120 on your browser. I know you'll lose some real estate, but we'll be able to see it a lot better.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and fit these. So I kind of made a list of the things that you can and can't do when you're looking at a screen. And when I say you can do it, I mean that these are realistic. It's not like crazy crazy stuff when you get into the customization project, but they can be a little bit on the tricky side. And if we have an opportunity to kind of jump into one of these the trees in the customization project that kind of show the customer location, all these different fields, there's one piece in there that I think if everybody can kind of understand, I think it'll be very helpful. But when I'm looking at this screen right here, I can easily move these tabs. I'm sure you've done that before, where I can just change the order of it. I can lift up the taxes and move it over here. Where this kind of comes into play is like definitely on the sales order screen. You have a number of tabs that people are constantly using, but usually it's the details, and then they skip over to the shipping, and then maybe they're, I don't know, looking at the total screen. And so you can change the order of that, just pick these up and move it. So we can, if we have an opportunity, we can kind of show how to do that. The other thing you can do is you can move fields. So like this customer field and location, you can move that over here to the left. You can move the order type and number over here. You can change the order of these so that it makes a little bit more sense for the users that are using that screen. You can also create fields. So just like a text field, I really struggle with doing the lookup fields. I kind of prefer to use the attributes for that. But combo fields.
Yeah, I was wondering your thoughts on that. I've similarly, like, I haven't delved into enough C# code in order to pull that off myself.
Yeah, so I have
Certainly good to learn.
zero coding capability, like none. So I can't even write a basic script in SQL. So that's that's kind of my approach to this thing is, if it's going to require, like, there are a couple of things that I can do that require some coding, the attributes and the mobile, but those are so easy, like they're almost copy and paste kind of things that I do. But aside from that, I have no coding experience. So the selector one I don't do, but combo text fields, integers, that kind of stuff. You can also create actions. So create a side panel, add a report, create an action, like right here, instead of create appointment, you could have create opportunity, and it just creates an opportunity from the service order, and then you're bringing in some data from the service order into that new opportunity, so you have some kind of linkage there. You can also control the visibility of the fields themselves, so you can have them conditionally visible, or you can just kind of make them go away, which you can do with access rights, but that is a lot more challenging than
Oh, I agree. A lot
yeah,
clunkier. Yeah.
like almost not even worth it, because even
Yeah.
if you're good enough and diligent enough to get it done, you still have to worry down the road that somebody else is going to create a new one, or there's a
Yes.
role that wasn't being used that's now going to be used. And so if you can just go in there and kind of conditionally have it appear, disappear, or just kind of take it away, then I say go for it.
I agree.
So you can control the visibility of it. You can also control the default values. The default values. So you can control the default values that are in these fields. You can also add states and transitions. So the status would be a state. and you can add dialog boxes, and you can also change sizes. So there's a lot of things that you can do. But what I have found though are some I don't want to call them serious limitations, but they are definite limitations when people are asking me to do things, and I can immediately say the answer is no if it has anything at all to do with the grid. The reason why is because I can't access the grid and the conditions. So I can't create a condition based on something that happens in the grid. I don't know if you had any experience with that, or is that?
Yeah, I've had the same
Yeah,
struggle. I think as far as I know, you have to get into the graph on the screen and the business logic code on the screen
right.
to detect that stuff. Yeah.
I've also struggled with, like, on this service order, I can take a field from the customer, like whether it's an existing or a new field, and I can bring it in here and highlight it. However, it kind of behaves strangely. Um, and this is very true on the sales order screen, probably more so than on the service order screen. So if it's true on the customer record, let's say, and it's just a Boolean, a checkbox, um, what happens is that when you put it on hold, it actually forgets and doesn't look at the customer record. And so if it was true, then it becomes false when you put it on hold. And then if you take it off of hold, and then save something, then it goes back and it looks at the customer. So what I'm saying is that I can bring fields in and put them on here, but I'm kind of limited with what I can do with it. And I definitely cannot use it as a condition. At least I have not been able to. And if someone out there knows how you can do it, then I would love to hear it. So, like, I can't take let's say, I don't know, a payment method on the customer record, and then bring it in here and then use that as a condition. If the payment method equals check, then, do this with the field. Have you had similar experience, or?
Yeah, you're ahead of me on the workflow engine. So actually, for me, I've only started looking at the workflow engine this year in 2024, and the reason is because I was waiting.
Okay.
I don't remember when it got introduced, but I've maybe a couple years
Yep.
ago, I felt like I wanted to give it some time to make sure they were still committed to it because I know they do a lot of things that are like they try something and then they don't put any more effort into it. But yeah, so you're ahead of me. It's only this year, 2024, that I've rolled up my sleeves or started to roll up my sleeves on the
Well,
workflow.
so you're light years ahead of probably all of us on the automation steps, and probably could do
Yeah, actually, I never got into those because I knew they were going away. But what I
Yeah.
have gotten into is business events. I've gotten into business events, and I'm finding that I was thinking business events and workflow were like two separate things. I'm finding that they're actually kind of interrelated. They kind of work together. Have you been finding
In
that?
in what way?
In the sense that, like, for example, one of the things I put together to show at some point today is you can create a new action on using the
Right.
workflow engine or a customization project, but then you can reference that action on the business event.
Right.
So, just the sense they kind of work together. It's not like you're doing everything necessarily in a customization project or everything in a business event. They can feed each other.
So one of the issues, we're just taking a little sidebar here. One of the issues that I've run into with business events versus workflows is in a workflow. Excuse me. I can call on an action based on some condition, and I can put it in a workflow, and it'll change it, and it'll change it real time. So as soon as the document is saved by the user, it makes that update. On a business event, if I ask it to change something, when the user saves it, it changes. So it writes it in the background, but it's writing it in a different version than the one that the user is in. So then they go and they start doing things on the screen, and then they get that dreaded, you've lost all your previous stuff. So
Yes.
have
Yes.
you had a issue with that and some
Yes.
solved?
I guess I'm not completely clear what you mean by save it in a different version. The way I would describe it is that you click the action on the business event
Right.
and it doesn't do it in real time. It hands the work off to a processing queue. And I think it's now a rabbit message queue. And so it kind of puts it on that queue to do. And it could take a few seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds for that, depending on how busy that queue
Right.
is. It's sort of like you're instead of you doing the action, you're telling some automation engine to do the action, and it does it when it can, which is usually pretty fast. But to your point, I've experienced this as well. It's not real time. And
Yeah.
so you might then move along and try to make another change. You save it, and now you get exactly that error message because the queue did something in the meantime.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree that that's a disadvantage of business events.
Well, so what I was hoping that you were going to was to find a way to have the business event and the workflow kind of work in concert with each other, where that is no longer an issue. But I'm not sure if that's actually possible.
Yeah, and I don't know how doable that even is architecturally. I'm speculating here, but business events, you can make changes in real time, right?
Right.
There's no compiling going on. Whereas with a customization project, you have to publish to get those changes. So it sort of makes sense to me that there is a drawback of business events because you do them in real time, but it's not really compiling your logic in with the other
Yeah.
logic. And that's maybe partly why it's not real time when it
Yeah.
functions.
With the business events, I have to always consider the timing. So more often than not, I'll if I want the saving of a document to trigger something, but I'm then worried that somebody's going to be working on that document after they've done it. Maybe I'll put like a mechanism on there to have them say I'm done, and that way I can go ahead and I can update that field. But here's like an example. So here's three.
Hey, before you hit your example, I want to circle back on one
Okay.
thing we discussed already.
Sure.
Just going to temporarily take your screen off. We talked about the grid and being able to detect things on the grid.
Right.
I think part of it, oh, that didn't show up well. Well, you can kind of make it out. So this was, what you can't make out is, what, let me just share my screen. You can see it. Let's see, let's get rid of that. And I'll present.
I'm looking at myself like grumping on the screen. It just looks like I'm just like,
Hey, we're just
yes,
hanging out on a Saturday afternoon.
yeah,
I put a collared shirt on. I've really spiffed
I
up for
did
this.
too.
But I did take this note. This was from Acumatica Summit not a few months ago, but a year ago. And Ali Johnny had talked about making side panels that were aware of the specific row on the screen that you're on at some point. I don't know when that would be coming, but
Oh,
to me, if they could do that for side panels, I would assume that it then becomes available for other things, but I don't
yeah,
know.
that's actually worked
But
for me on
that
the side
that would be
panels too. You're
interesting.
talking about like if you make a change in the document, it updates the side panel in like you don't have to refresh it.
Not
No.
that side panels in the sense that you were on the service order screen, right?
Yeah.
And you had the grid down below. Well, here, let's go back to your screen. Pull your screen back up. Go ahead and pull that service order back up again. So the idea was that right now, if you could add a side panel to service
Right.
orders, and it would know that you're on. Could you zoom in again?
Yeah.
I can't see very well.
Oops.
So you're on service order number 45.
Right.
So your side panel is aware that you're on service order 45. Right now, down below, though, you're on line number 1. It's not aware that you're on line number 1. So what Ali was talking about there was if you clicked on line number 2, the side panel would update based on knowing that you're on line number 2.
Oh, got it. So you could pass the line number 2 to the side panel for some reason, right? I just wanted information from the
Right.
line 1. Okay, got it.
And so, my assumption there, I don't know if this is true. My assumption is that if they pull that off for side panels, it would just be available for other things as well. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that this is kind of the an Achilles heel, in my opinion. And really, the only thing that they need to do is just make the conditions more robust.
Hmm.
It just doesn't have that much in there. You got a lot of header information. You got a lot of information in the tabs that you can use, but the grid is pretty blind, and then it's blind to some of the other fields that you can add. So it'd be nice if you could add a field, not a custom field, but a field from another screen, from the branch record or the location record or the customer record.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think of it as doing like a V lookup in Excel. Like I just want a V lookup on the customer to grab that other field
Exactly.
or whatever the item.
Yeah.
I still don't know a clean way to do that. Yeah, it would be nice to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that there is, and it's all just because the conditions piece. So so if I'm looking at a screen and I'm trying to decide what I can do, 9 times out of 10, if it involves a condition that involves the grid, or something from another customer record, then I just say that that's something that I can't do. You'll have to get development involved.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about the low code, no code tools is that, the way I look at it is you can get maybe 80% of the way there with 20% of the effort.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like. Then you hand it off, you write up the customization spec to spend 80% of the effort to get the remaining 20%. But the other thing that I like is that it allows you to iterate a lot faster and build a blueprint for that end customization. Because I've never seen it where someone writes a customization spec and they nailed it on the first
Right.
pass. Like you're taking your best shot, you get something back from the developer likely weeks later, and you use the thing and then you get feedback, and it's this real long delay between when they then can get to make those changes, et cetera, right? And so you're able to go through that process a lot faster with these low code no code tools, and then at the end of the day you can still hand it to a developer, but you got to the customization spec, like one that's going to work in the real world, a lot faster, and that's what I like about
So
it.
are you saying then that you use the customization project editor as a like a scope of work kind of tool?
No, I just
Yeah.
mean conceptually that you can write up your spec, and then you also could hand the customization project to the developer,
Yeah.
right? So they can see exactly how it's behaving, right? And you're
Oh, I
speaking
see.
not just in sentences, but
Yeah.
you're speaking in some type of computer thing, right? So conceptually, you've got a blueprint. It's not just, hey, go look at it. I still would write up a customization spec, but I know this is working and I know how it functions because it's not just some description. It's a real thing that's actually running in Acumatica.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's cool. I hadn't actually thought about that. I mean, that's a big challenge, is trying to figure out a way to communicate what you have in your head or what the customer needs in the
Yeah, it's
communication
always
window.
a back and forth process, right? Yeah, it always takes time. You never get it right the first
Never.
time. So these low, I guess the way I look at it is you don't have to decide up front. Oh, do I go down this low code, no code path? If I can, it's a waste of time if I then decide to go down the other path. I don't see it that way at all. I see it as low code, no code actually gets you to an end customization faster as well. So I think you just start off on that
Yeah.
path. It might do the job for you with the low code, no code, and even if it doesn't, you didn't waste the time. You actually now got to a customization spec a lot
So
faster.
even if you run into a dead end, then you say, "Here's the dead end, and I want you to take it the rest of the way." Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a dead end, and that you don't have to back up. You just now you hop over onto the other path,
Right.
but you're farther along. It wasn't a
I
waste of
brought it to
effort in there.
here, but I can't do this. You do that, and then do all this that I've done, and then you have your customization project, basically. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
They can
Yep.
fill in the holes. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, I think for there's one piece that I kind of struggle with how to actually talk about it, because I feel like I'm going to end up overcomplicating something. So I'm gonna make a stab at it. All right. When I click on this sales order form, I open up the tree. I click on the form document. Let's just look at the layout properties on this thing. Um, this is telling me what my data member is. If I go and I look at the data fields, there is this data view. And this data view is made up of a whole bunch of different chunks of information that Acumatica is using. But whatever you put in here as your data source, as your data member, is directly related to one of these. Okay? So I'm probably going to have to back up and say this again.
You're talking about in the scenario of adding a new field, correct?
Yes. And
Yeah,
moving,
okay.
yes. So when it comes to moving fields, adding fields, and I guess those are probably the two main things. You're going to end up putting a new field in some spot. You're either going to put it in an existing column or you're going to add it somewhere. When you're adding it to that place, this is what's going to drive where it actually goes in here. So watch this. I'm going to click on additional attributes. Nothing down here changed, right? I click on the sales order adjustments. So this is where all the adjustment information is coming from. Nothing down here changed. So I can't actually look at these data views and find out what fields are in there. The only way for me to do that is to click on an area in the tree that relates to that piece. All right, so watch this. I go, let's go into the details. And I click on the grid transactions. This my data source is DS, and I'm looking for my data member in here somewhere. Data member is transactions, okay? So that relates to this data view, the transactions. Does that make sense? If I click on this, I get a whole new set of data.
Yeah, I actually hadn't noticed that if you change it, it doesn't change what's available. I thought that it did, but I guess maybe it. You noticed that on other screens?
Yeah,
too?
it's if you click on let's say on this like layout rule right here, which probably has its own data member, right? These things change. So when I go and I look at the layout property for that, or maybe I have to go to column on this one. It's going to have a different data member. Well, I think the form ones all come from this right here. But sometimes when you have a column, so this is getting like more complicated probably than people like, but for those that like to geek out on this stuff, I can add like a grid.
Yeah, I'm thinking as we're 38 minutes into this, I'm thinking today's Geek Out Saturday afternoon. Your polished stuff will be on the next webinar.
Yeah.
And people who want details can come here.
Okay. All right. So are you saying keep going? Or?
I'm fine with this.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think it's good.
All right. So I want to add a field, and that field is not related to this data member. Okay. So like, let's say I wanted to take something from the grid and I want to bring it up and put it up into the form. In the grid itself, this is the information that I need. I need that data member to equal the transactions. Okay. So up here, I click and I'm going to grab another or add another thing that will allow me to change what that data member is. So let's say I do, I put in a group.
Oh, you're just trying to get to that data member.
Yes. Well,
okay.
So if I were to take this availability right here, and I were to try and drag it up here and drop it into there, it's not going to add it.
And that wouldn't make sense though, right? Because it wouldn't know which line to grab the data from,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
But now if I want to take that availability and I want to put it up here, I just have to get something in Acumatica that's going to tell it to pull it from the transactions. I want
Gotcha.
this
Yeah.
data member
Yeah.
transactions. Okay. So if I just add something like a group, and I'm looking for, oh, that's an existing group. Or did I put that in there? Crap, I may have put that in there.
You added something, but I don't know where it
I
went.
did.
And how did all those fields in there? I don't know.
Yeah. Um, all right, let's just do a form. I'm going to end up like nuking all this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I want my data member to be that transactions.
And you just type it in. I've actually never done that. You just free form it in, and it has to match one of the existing
Correct. Yeah.
uh, access
Yep.
classes. If it doesn't, you probably get, or data views. You get some error if it doesn't.
Correct. And they're giving you a clue right
Okay.
here. It's AR balances to get this one. It's add
Okay.
invoice filter to get that one. This one you just put in billing address, but AR setup. So it's telling you what it is that you need to put into this data member.
Gotcha.
And then we need the data source is always, I don't know why, but it's always DS. Okay.
Okay.
So now I've created this like little outpost inside of this column, but I'm giving it specific instructions. So now if I grab this availability, I should be able to drag and drop it up in there. Maybe not. I might have to just go and do the add the data field.
I'm still wondering that I'm be curious to see how it functions when you publish. How would it know which line to grab the data from? If there's 5 lines on the sales order and they all have 5 different values for availability, how would it know which one to show up on the
Oh,
header?
that's a fine question. I haven't actually done that. I was doing this.
Let's try it.
I was doing this.
This would be
how to do
interesting.
it, but yeah, I don't know. Let's add the availability and see what happens. This will be part of the let's blow it up and start again kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the best way to learn, right? It looks like you got it in there because you got a little arrow.
Correct. Yeah, I
Can you hit that
clicked
arrow?
on here. So
Yep.
so remember how I did the transaction. So when I came over here to add a new line, it already had the sales order line.
And if you hit that little arrow next to form transactions, you should see your
Correct.
availability field in there now,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What happens if we publish this? It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. So for those that are interested, just getting rid of something as easy as highlighting it and just going remove. And you're not deleting the date from the database. You're not,
Right.
all you're doing is you're deleting it from the display. That's all.
And you could also hide it too, right? If you wanted to make it easier to add it back.
Correct.
Or remember that it used to be
Yeah,
there.
you would do that in the fields area. So you can take all of those fields that we just saw on the tree, every single one of them, and you can add it to this. And then you can either disable it or conditionally disable it, hide it, make it required. You can change the display name, which at some point I'd like to at least bring that up because I don't know if I'm going to have time in the other piece. But yeah, so you just add the field to this fields thing, and then you can just disable it, and then or you just hide it, whatever you want. So I use these quite a bit for various things. So yeah, let's publish it just to see what happens.
And while it's publishing, I think it's important to point out, I find myself when I'm developing something, I like doing what you just did, publish within the customization project. And the reason is I like that it does the validation step.
Mm-hmm.
And then we probably won't even see it. It'll say green, you're validated, and it'll go right into publishing. I don't have to click the publish button. But if I'm deploying something into a production site, I like to go to the customization project screen and deploy it that way, publish it to all the tenants.
Agreed.
And then it does 2 steps. It validates it, and then it stops, and you have to click the publish button. But I find that's either way, the same thing happens, at least to the tenant you're in. But I like publishing to all the tenants as a best
I
practice.
do.
I don't know
I
if you
do
agree with that.
too. I 100% agree with you on that one. There is one time in this past, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, where I had a situation where I needed a very specific thing in a very specific tenant. So then I broke that piece out and I put it in each tenant, and I only published it in each tenant. But other than that, I always publish.
You've actually had that happen. I still haven't had that happen yet. I've always been wondering if anyone's
Yeah.
ever had a real case
Well,
for it.
so
Interesting.
it was they wanted the vendor reference number to be required in all of the tenants except for one.
Ah, that's it. Okay,
So
makes
so
sense.
then I had to break that out of my no code and just publish it. But that's the only time. That is the only
Interesting.
time. Otherwise, I don't like publishing in one tenant. And on top of that, I always keep the customization projects in one tenant.
Yes, I like that as a best practice as
Yeah.
well. Otherwise, it gets confusing. Hey, Ryan's asking real quick, can you just preview instead of publishing? I think the preview works for some basic things like when you're changing layouts and stuff, but if you want any functionality, I think you need to publish. Is that a good way of describing it?
Yeah, it's kind of like the preview and the reports. Sometimes it'll work for
Yeah,
you, and sometimes it won't. I don't trust it, so I never use it. I mean, it's just
exactly
it's
the
just
same. I don't trust it. Yeah. Even if it seems to do what I was expecting, I still don't trust that it's really going to do that in real time. Yeah, I'm with you.
exactly. So, all right, this is really funky because we got a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on here. So
But it didn't error
these got
out.
moved.
That's
No, it
interesting.
didn't.
And where's the
But I also
availability?
don't see
I
it.
don't see it.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that isn't one of those fields that, because I just grabbed a field.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's on the grid,
Yeah, I
right?
don't
Maybe
know
we
if
could
it's
try
got
it with
anything in it.
quantity.
Like maybe I should have just grabbed warehouse or something, because it'd be interesting to see if you could like
Can we try it?
click on it.
Let's try it.
You know what I mean, and just highlight them and
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
change
curious if
this.
it even pulls in a piece of data. Let's try
Yeah.
warehouse or quantity or something that we could put two different values on two different lines.
Yeah, I mean, this is how crazy I am. I'll be thinking about solving a problem, then I'll go, I wonder if I could do that, and then I'll come
Yep,
downstairs and
yep.
I'll just dive into it just to see, because I'm not going to
That's the
kill
best way
anything,
to
and it'd be
learn.
nice to know. Um, so we got where'd we pop that? Right here? No, we didn't put it there. Where did we put it now? I used the form, didn't I?
I just noticed you're actually on an Acumatica.com instance. How'd you pull that off?
So
That's pretty
Chris set this
special.
up for me.
Oh, thank you, Chris Hackett.
Yeah, I
Nice.
was I was
Very
really
cool.
happy about that too, because there's no delay. I don't have like the Teams uh, thing going on, and
Yeah,
it's lickety split, and yeah, it's really good.
nice.
All right, so let's, instead of doing that, let's go here to add data fields, and maybe we can find something that's not an alternate ID. Let's do something that's
I'm thinking warehouse or quantity, either one of those.
visible. Yeah. Let's go to site. There we go. There we go. Let's just do two because we can. And I wish they wouldn't say create controls. If it just said add field, it would
Yeah,
make sense to
add. I
people.
agree. I agree. Oh, something else when you were talking about adding new fields, because of I didn't realize that you couldn't change the data view, or you change it and it doesn't do anything. I'd never even noticed that. But just because of the confusion between the tree structure on the left, my brain likes the flat structure better. And so I find myself more and more, if I'm going to add a new field, I go to the data access section and add it there.
Oh,
And then I come back and it shows up on the screen, in the appropriate grid area. And then I add it that way. Just for some reason, my brain likes it better. The end result is the same, but
but you
yeah.
still have to do a pre-publish, and
Yep. You still have to do that to get the
right.
field into the database. And then you can go add it to the
So you've
screen that
never
way.
had any problems then adding it wherever you want to add it?
Not yet. But actually, no. There was one time I really wanted to put it in the vendor table.
Yeah.
And no matter how I selected it, it would always put it in the B account table. And I didn't want that because I didn't want it for all B accounts, but it was okay. I lived with it.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason, once I discovered the fact that you have to click on certain areas in order to look at certain data fields, I always kind of go into the tree and I select where I want it to go before I create it, just because I'm worried that I'm going to add the data field, and then I'm going to go and try and add it somewhere else, and it's not going to be available to me. But I actually don't think
Yeah, you can do it however your brain works. If
Yeah.
you think like a screen, you do it that way. If you think like the database, which is more how my brain works, then you do it that way. The end result's the same. I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, we're all kind of driven by our little idiosyncrasies and fears, and you know what I mean? So
as long as you get the result, yeah.
Yeah. So if we go,
oh, interesting. It actually called it preferred warehouse.
Oh, maybe I grabbed
it's almost like it pulled it from the customer. Maybe that was
Oh,
the wrong one.
No. I think that's actually something else. I did that.
That was another field. Okay.
So I have like seven customization projects there that I'm all like tinkering and toying with. And
yeah, you got like PO number on there, I could tell.
Yeah.
So where's our, we still didn't get a warehouse.
So
then,
this is an example. Yeah, we got this right here. This is an example
of there it is. Okay.
Where you have like, it still exists down here.
Yeah, you just highlighted it. You moved it front and center.
Right. And exactly, because I want them to make sure that they have this branch and preferred warehouse or not cattywampus. And so it exists in both places. You change it here, it changes it down there. I didn't delete it from the tab. I just put it up here.
Can you show that? I'm curious to see it in action. Can you show, since you brought it up, is it on the shipping tab maybe? I don't remember where that preferred warehouse is on this.
It looks like I'm having to do this because we have the screen bigger. But I was curious if this would change.
All right, we could jump to that.
Based on what I highlighted here, but it doesn't look like it does.
What if you change it on the first line? Or change it there, yeah.
Yeah, change it down here.
Ah, did it for all. Then what if you changed just the first line warehouse?
I think it's doing just the first line. I don't think it's like, if I change this, I think the other one's going to say, and I don't know why. Yeah. So it changed this one.
So that's interesting.
But yeah.
That's actually, I didn't realize that. Where I'm thinking about it is about getting another note, because I've seen a lot of situations where someone wants a header note and a line note, and they're like, but there's really one note, and we just want to put it on the first line. I never thought that it would just bind it to the first line. That's smarter than I thought it would be. Glad we uncovered that.
So there was, that actually just reminded me of, I added just recently, actually, I added a field. This is one of the things I'll do at the end of the month. So I added a field that's like a combo box field to the line. And then I also added that to one of the process order screens. I don't know what made me think of that, but I just did. So where were we? So we were just experimenting with adding things.
Yeah, right? So be aware of what you have clicked on the left-hand side, because that's going to affect what columns are available on the right-hand side.
Yeah. Well, so the key take-home message I think for most users is this. If you're looking to add a field, like let's say that you're looking for something on the customer record and you want to add it to, I'm in the customer record. Sorry, let's do this again. So you're in the sales order and you want to add something from the customer record. You first need to click somewhere in this tree that's going to give you that data table. Does that make sense? So I click here and I see that I have my data member as document. I go in and I find my customer order. Nope, I don't want that. I want customer number. So here's my customer contact. I might click on this column just to see if it's different before I go in and I try to add a data field, and then I can see all the different things that are available. So Acumatica is giving
Yeah,
you a really small choice, but there's a lot sitting there. Actually, you know what? I was just going to sort by that. So here are the ones that are all being consumed. But man, when you look at this, there's quite a bit in
there's a
here.
lot more.
Yeah. So look
Yeah,
where the scroll bar is,
yeah.
and you can see you can bring in attributes. You can bring in, I mean, a lot of different things. And where this kind of comes more into play is like grids on screens. You know, like somebody goes, okay, well, can you add a branch, or can you add the order number to this process screen? First thing I'll do is I'll just fire up a customization. I'll add that screen. I'll click on the grid, wherever it is that I want to pull data from, and I'll look. 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of here, boom, publish, and it's there. Like the whole thing takes seconds.
And then the thing that we both would like to learn is, if it's not there, how would we, I still think of it
Yeah.
like a VLOOKUP in Excel. How would we go over to the customer and get it from the customer's data view? If it's not in this case, we're looking at the sales order data view. How could I go in and grab any field that I would like out of the customer view?
Yeah. So
I think there's code involved. I don't know how to
no,
do that.
let me, we'll go through an exercise right here. Actually, might be.
Oh, do you know how to do that? Maybe I misunderstood.
Yes.
Oh, let's do it. I'd
Well,
love to do
because it's
that.
already there. It's not that I'm not doing anything magical about it. But all right, so we do a service order. So let's just create a customization project. We'll add a service order, and then I'll show you how, because I've done it before, so I know how to do it here, which will.
And one sec, while you're pulling that up, I'm posting in the comments. Ryan had asked where the recording is from the webinar that you did. What was that? That was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and then you said you're going to do a follow up at the end of the month.
Yeah, there's another one going.
I just posted a link to the. It's a really long link, but it's to the recording, so you can check that out. So, give me the overview of the example you're about to do here. So you're going to add something to the sales order screen that's a field from the customer.
Right. So
okay.
It takes some digging, and what I'm looking for is it's been a while since I did this, so I'm looking for that that magical data member piece, and I thought it was right here, but maybe it's not. There's if I look at this, well, maybe I didn't do it that way. Maybe I did it this way. So I'm just looking at what's available, okay? So if I start at the top and just go, okay, so I got addresses, payments, answers, billing cycle, don't care. I'm looking for something related to the customer. Orders. Stood up.
In the data view dropdown, right?
Yeah.
Like business accounts, maybe, but that staff records, that doesn't look
Yeah,
right.
no, it wasn't that. I could jump on another system, but I don't want to show their system. Everybody. I actually do kind of think it was like staff records.
It does say business account.
It does.
It's worth a
shot.
Let's see what happens.
So basically, the staff records is what I need. I click on the
But as we already talked about, it doesn't change the list of fields. So you need to, you're going to add a new thing. Okay,
Yeah, I just
gotcha.
need, and you can do this with like one of these containers.
Just like we already did
Correct.
before with the warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what was it
Same
again?
technique.
Staff something or other?
Member? I forgot already.
Staff records.
Records. And you're doing all lowercase, even though it had an uppercase S and an uppercase R.
No, I like to do whatever they have. So
Okay.
thank you.
And then DS
And then
down
DS
in
for the
the
data source, right?
data source. Okay.
So you got those two pieces, and now we can go into the data fields. What's that? Stuff not found. Oh, this is going to ask me to. I feel a loop coming on.
It's interesting. It says staff. It's almost like maybe it didn't pick up the full word that you typed in back on the form. Huh. I don't know why it just thinks it's staff and not staff records. But we do see fields in there
Yeah,
now.
so we got.
So maybe we'll be okay.
So yeah, this is going to be employee. It's looking for employee records. That's the business. That's the staff records. So there's another one on here that. So this is basically what I have to do is go digging.
But yeah, I think you just solved it for me then. That's what I've always missed. So I think the key is that you have to create a separate container
Yep.
for it. Okay.
Right.
Which is probably not a bad idea anyways. You want like a little box of customer related fields or something. Interesting. Thanks for that tip. I've been wondering that, and I never thought about doing it this way.
Yeah, that's
Ooh,
that's
like
the
it.
one. It's squirrely and it's hard to describe. Like you're getting it, but I think it's a challenge to
Now,
describe it to people. Uh,
I think we are still somewhat limited in that we can only pick from what's available here in the list. And like we've been looking for the
right.
actual customer fields, right? And those are not there for whatever reason. And so I think you would have to write some code to actually go grab that customer entity, but you can at least pick from what's
Well, no,
available.
yeah, I've 100% done it on the
Oh, okay.
on the either
On the
yeah
service
service
orders.
order or the yeah. So it's in one of these, but it's not sticking out to me. It might be complex.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So even if I just wanted to view the contacts down here, I would come back up here and change this to contacts. And now when I go back to that data field, it's going to show everything that was in this contacts. That makes sense.
Yeah, Ryan's pointing out that a developer could add the data view, and that's the part I still would like to learn how to do, because it is nice. What you just opened more doors to me than I had before, knowing that I could pick, if I drop a container on there, I could pick from other data views, but I still would like to know how to add my own view. And the reason is I tend to do stuff with SQL views, and then I add those as data classes. And if I do it in a SQL view, I know I can pull anything I want with SQL, but I would still need to know how to add the SQL view data class to the screen.
But
So
you can
yeah, a
only do that
developer
if
can
you
do
have
it, but I
access
want to
to
learn how to do it.
the access to SQL, right? You can't do that if it's hosted. Or
You could do it in a dev environment or the OG SQL product that I created with the developer allows me to just write live SQL in a live
okay.
environment. That's why I tend to use that. But yeah, um, well, I would love to learn how to do that. I don't know though if it's a really difficult thing to do or not. I don't know.
Well, so let's just do, because I'm probably not going to be able to get into this deep on the next one. Well, let's just do the workflow.
Yeah, this is like a bottom up session. Your official webinars are like top down. These are like a let's start with the details. I love it.
Yeah,
It's the kind of stuff I like.
you can tell my mind works. It's crazy, but yeah. So here's the issue that this was trying to address.
And by the way, I do have two top-down examples that I can show
Okay.
when you're ready.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to get your take on one of
Yeah.
them.
Well, let's do this, and we can dive into that. All right. So it's a fairly simple request, actually, which is if the ship via equals something, I want the shipping terms to equal something. So
Oh,
if
Ryan's
the
loving
ship
this. Yep.
via
All right,
is
good.
this, then I want the this to be 15, right? So if this is a 15 delivery charge, then I want my shipping terms to be it. But I had to do this through the workflow, and I'll show you why. But basically, here's how I think about workflows. And I these are normally hidden. So they exist, but nobody's actually going to see them. But I wanted to put them out here just to highlight something, that you create the action, and then the action just does something. Okay, so this purpose of this action is to change this to 15. This one is going to change it to 25, and this one's going to change this to 50. So if I click on,
Can you click on? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Prove it.
so I click on that and
There
it
we go.
changes it to 50. I click on
Okay.
25 and it's going to change this down back to 25. Okay. So I create my actions, and now I think to myself, okay, I want these to be triggered under certain conditions. What are those conditions? So now I create my conditions. I have 3 conditions, which I'll show you. Our delivery 15 is true. Our delivery 25 is true. And our delivery 50 is true. So if I then compare that to what I created here in the conditions, which they always say the new ones, so it's easy to find the ones that you did. So is our delivery 15? So the ship via equals 15, right? So I just create those conditions. Now, where this all comes to play is I'm going to use these conditions to automatically trigger my actions. And I do that with the workflow engine. So when you create on the workflow, or click on the workflow, you just add a new workflow, which I created this one down here called sales order 2. So if I want to do another workflow, I'm going to extend an existing one. The one I'm extending is the SO. The type is SO. And this is a new thing, this subtype, which Acumatica will show you which ones that they're using is just the default. Okay, then I can call this sales order 3. So now I've created another workflow, and all I'm going to do is tell Acumatica which one of these workflows is active. So this was the original workflow. So I inactivated that and I clicked on this one. So this is the one that I'm using.
And when you extend a workflow, is that generally what you want to be ready to do? Deactivate the one that you extended, because you're not really piggybacking
Correct.
on it. You're actually replacing it, but inheriting everything that it
Yep.
had.
And here's the trick. That tells you that you did everything right. So this is the way it would normally look. You create another workflow. If you select this workflow and the other one deselects, Acumatica is saying, okay, this and this are the same thing, but this is the new one. So if you've configured this incorrectly and this is selected and you add this one and this one doesn't deselect, you're basically saying that you're creating a brand new workflow. You're not extending an existing one. And I haven't even gone down that path before because I don't.
So you know you've done something wrong if you activate it and it doesn't deactivate the other one.
Correct. If you go like this and then that one doesn't do it, that means that something in your setup, the workflow type or the subtype just isn't right. I'm not saying.
But what about activating both sales order 2 and sales order 3? You can do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So now you basically have no sales order workflow whatsoever. None. And now what would happen? I don't know. But so if you were to now open up this sales order workflow, this is now going to look like the other one exactly in every way, except for now you can do things in it. You can add an action, you can add a state, you can add a transition, etc. But all I'm looking to do is I'm looking to automatically trigger that action. And I want to do it in the open status. I could actually do it in all of these, but for me, at some point, that sales order is going to be in open. And that's really all I care about, is I care about that updating. So in the actions part, so I highlight the open, I look at the actions, and here are all the actions that are available, right? And then I added these actions. So the action that you saw here, boom, 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 I added those here, boom, boom, boom. And then what I did is I used the auto run condition to say, if this condition is true, I want you to automatically activate this action. And that's it.
Can you open the, let's see, is that auto run condition only present on that actions tab? It's not something that's part of the action itself,
Correct.
right?
It's not part of the action
Okay.
itself.
So this was exactly the question that I had for you in the example I had pulled up. And I'm curious, when does it trigger? Does it trigger on the save? Can we try it?
Yeah, it triggers it on the save. Correct. Yes. So
okay, so that still doesn't solve what I was looking for. Okay, so it's on the save. I was trying to get it to happen. Well, let's cover what you did here. So can we see that happen?
you were
now?
trying to get it so that like if you did this,
as soon as you move out of the field. But let's try that next. Let's just do what you have so far. Can you show it in action? So you just pick 15.
Yeah, I picked 15. So the idea is now when I hit save, this is going to change to 15, which it did. Okay, and if I change this to 50 and I save, then this is going to change to 50. So that automatically changed.
Now, maybe Ryan, you could chime in the comments. I think what Ryan was looking for, because their XByte runs Acumatica, and Ryan is trying to replace our automation steps. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I think you're probably trying to have it happen as soon as you change the ship via before you hit the save. But maybe you could. Obviously, you're doing something else. You're doing tasks, I think. But correct me if I'm wrong. If you want it to happen live. Oh, and he is asking if you could have the field commit the changes. Even if it commits the changes, though, I don't.
Yeah, you can. I'll be honest, man. I don't quite understand.
Let's try that.
I don't quite understand what that means. And maybe you guys can kind of help me understand that piece, because I'm dying to know.
I don't think it's the same as the save, but let's try it.
So on the, we're going shipping. So where's our ship via? Okay, here's our ship via. All right. So
you found that fast. It takes me a lot longer to find those fields.
In the layout, the commit changes is true.
It already is true. Yeah.
But there's also another area in here where you can commit things, and I'm not sure exactly what they do. So there's this auto callback, commit changes, right? So you have behavior commit changes.
Let's try it.
So maybe that does it. I mean, you can.
Can you hit the hide button on your screen sharing thing? And then I'm also going to move us to the side.
Do what?
Oh, that's not what I wanted. On the bot, yeah, that thing, the hide.
Okay.
Just so we can see when you click. Can you go back and click into that commit changes field? And there's that little blurb that shows up on the bottom.
On the where again? On the behavior?
Yes, that. And then
indicates.
Yeah, see on the bottom, it says indicates whether the blah 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 controls changes are committed automatically. Then what about the post data? I'm curious what that one says if you click into post data. The post data mode of the callback request. So maybe we try it in pieces. What if we try the commit changes first? If that doesn't work, we might try the post data. We're trying to get it to save automatically, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think that the issue is that it's not executing until it's saved,
Yeah, and so I guess Ryan's point,
right?
Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ryan's understanding that, but thinking, hey, if we can at least get it to auto save, we'd be close.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worth trying. Some of the things that I have found in here, I found just with experimenting. Now, what's interesting is that Chris said that during the last um, the webinar that somebody posted an explanation of the layout properties, but he couldn't find it. If anyone out there has it, I would love to get my hands on
Like
it.
he remembered seeing it, but then he couldn't find the comment later.
Yeah, I think, if I could corner a developer, they could probably explain what these mean. Maybe not how they function inside this area, but I would love to. I would love to learn more because I know I'm missing things, and I know that because I keep
Yep.
finding things. So the more I keep finding stuff, the more I realize that I'm missing other things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
One
Yep.
of them is this event handlers, which is a puzzler for me.
Yeah. So actually, event handlers is how I tried to do it, and I was curious if you had. I couldn't get to the finish line on it. I mean, I only spent like half an hour, but
No, because it recorded.
event handlers I think is the way to go to do it, but I couldn't get them to work.
Yeah. Well, and you can use them too in the workflows, but it's the creating them that requires code. It just does. Like they have existing ones that you can piggyback on, but it's unclear to me what they actually. I mean, some of them are obvious but unhelpful. Like if you confirm a shipment, it changes the status on the sales order. Okay, that's great, but it has no utility for me, so I'm not actually using it.
Well, yeah, let's see if that change that you just did worked, and then maybe we could try the event handlers. Maybe we can figure it out together.
Yeah.
I'll show you what I found so far, if I can remember.
All right. So the idea was that we wanted this to just change upon populating, right? Oh, you know what? We did the wrong one. We wanted the shipping terms.
No, you did it right. You wanted the ship via to commit, and we were thinking that might trigger the
Oh,
save,
I
but it
see what
doesn't
you're
look
saying.
like it
Almost
did.
as if it was a save action, but
Right,
okay, I got it. All right, that makes sense.
but it looks like it didn't. Maybe that next one would do it. Post data.
So what would you expect?
I'm thinking the page because that's the entire thing. That to me would be the save, but I don't know.
Okay. Oh, I did it before this actually saved. That happens to me sometimes.
But yeah, there is something between like the the screen as it is in your browser
Yeah.
versus like the committed cache thing, which is still not the save because the save is like send it to the database. And this all because this is all UI, it might all be pre-save. I don't know.
Possibly, but if I could solve that one problem, that would solve about 10 business event issues for me. Because then I could use the combination of the business event to trigger something in the customization project, and now it's not writing it after the fact, it's committing it while they're there. Make sense? It's kind of like what you were just
Yeah. Let's see if we can figure it out. How are you on time, by the way? I know we were I had sent you a calendar invite for an
Oh, I'm
hour. We're
fine.
20 minutes over. How are you doing? You
Well,
doing
well,
good?
I'm learning stuff, so my appetite for learning is bottomless. To be honest with
Good.
you.
I'm similar. Yeah. This is not in the work part of my brain that's operating right now. So I'm not tired. I'm
Yeah,
energized.
and it's faster, by the way, if you publish inside of here. Just as a side note,
Have you noticed that really?
yeah, it's much faster.
Even though it's still publishing
Yeah,
all of the customization projects, not just this
yeah,
one.
it's still
Interesting.
merging them all together, but
Huh.
there's a step that when you're doing the the publish all, it's like it's staging the two events.
Okay.
So it stages the first event and then says, "Okay, we've combined them. Are you sure you want to publish?" And you go, "Yep, I want to publish."
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about earlier. Yeah. And we both said we're on the same page with if you deploy it to production, you would do it off the customization project screen.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
Do the longer
It's not
process.
doing anything.
Yeah. Okay. So we can't trigger the save automatically, at least so
As far
far.
as we know, yeah.
So what about event handlers? I did look at those. I'll show you what I came up with. Maybe, yeah, try creating a new one there.
Well, so this is where you create the new ones, and then you have these that you can use. But I'll be honest, man, they confuse the crap out of me. Like conceptually, I get it. I know what they're doing, but in actuality, well, let's just look at one of these. So if I were to create one of these,
Oh, yeah, yeah. The trigger from code is not where I was going with it. I was looking at the trigger by field change.
okay, so let's do one. Guide me to it. So let's just do like a test.
Oh, and actually, you know what? I'm looking up what I did, and I did end up using event handler, and it still only worked on a save. But yeah, let's try one.
Okay.
So let's see. Can we, you know what might work better? It might work better if you just scrap or unpublish your existing one. So we know it doesn't have, we're going to need your custom actions though.
Or do you want to do this? And you can kind of show me what's this object from event and parameter from event? Do you know? Or entity to apply workflow?
I do not know. I was wondering that. Yeah, we could do that. So I could flip over to the thing. Ryan had actually sent me an email this week. I could flip over to that example. It's going to be the same type of thing, but on a different screen.
Okay.
How about
you want to grab it?
Yeah, 1 second. I will be right there. I just need to pull up my notes so I can walk through it. I'm just going to walk through it from the top, and then we can catch up to where we're at.
Is there a dignified way for a quick bathroom break?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's do a break, and I'll put on some background music. So
all right,
we'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
I guess my on the fly image editing skills weren't that great, but yeah, I got some kind of message on the screen. So here, I'll get my screen shared here. All right.
Where are you located anyway?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
You are?
What about you?
You just needed to be close to Acumatica support?
I actually worked there for a little bit.
Oh, did you?
No, it just sort of worked out that way. Yeah, I saw I was actually moving from Cleveland to Columbus, and that same summer I saw an announcement that they were opening an office in Columbus, so that worked out well.
Oh, cool. I remember Hocking Hill quite well.
Yeah, it's a nice area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just landed on some like news websites list of top hikes in America. It actually landed the top spot.
Hocking Hill did?
Which I don't agree with. Yeah, I don't agree with it, but it landed the top spot.
Supposedly it's nice. The greatest zip line. Have you done their zip line down there?
Not yet, but I've heard good things about it.
It's pretty epic.
I gotta check
it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's great. So before I moved to Minneapolis, I was in Cleveland. That gives you an idea as to how I know about Hocking Hill.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. Where in Cleveland were
you? Chagrin Falls.
Oh, I was in Twinsburg, not too far away.
Okay.
Like borders almost.
You grew up there?
No, I was only there for a few years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's funny. So you're in Minneapolis now.
Yep.
Colder but sunnier, right, than Cleveland?
Yes. That is correct. Much sunnier. It's like 80 more days of sun than Cleveland.
Nice.
Quite surprising.
Nice. All right. So I just did this yesterday, as you can see. I created these yesterday, but I already forgot what I did. So give me a second to remind myself.
Yeah, that happens.
So this is going to be on the task. Oh, yeah. So the scenario that Ryan had actually emailed me, if I understood it correctly, and if Ryan's still on, he can chime in. But if I understood it correctly, he wanted to be able to change a field on the task and have it like automatically change something else. So
okay.
I came up with an example. So I'm going to start from scratch and do this. So let's see here. I'm going to create a new one. So brand new customization project. I've got nothing published except for these, which are unrelated to what we're doing here. And we're going to customize this task screen. So I'm just going to take the screen code, which is usually how I do it, customize existing screen, paste it, and that'll get it populated in the screens area. So then I'm actually going to go right into event handlers, create a new one, and I'm going to call it change category. The event type, I'm going to make it triggered by field change. And then I'm going to pick my category field because, of course, I said category up here, but that means nothing. I have to pick what field is going to change. So we're going to look at the category field, which is this one right here on the task screen. Then let's see, down here, I'm going to pick activity details, which will be this area down on the bottom where you can write a bunch of rich text stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to set activity details equal to the category ID, which is not going to be pretty. It's going to be some drop down value, but at least we'll be able to see it change something.
So just walk me through what we're saying here then. So we're saying that we're looking at the field name category to see if there's a change. And if there is, we're updating the activity details with the category. Is that what's happening?
Yes, exactly. So what we want to happen here, this isn't a great use case, but I just want to see something happen.
No, but this
I want to be able to
work.
change the category and have it then write the category down here.
Yeah. Can I just mention, you know how we're kind of just creatures of habit, like all of us are? And when the workflow first came out, the event handler was really kind of clunky. I think what you're showing me right now is fairly new.
Oh, is it?
I don't
Okay.
remember seeing that a few years ago. And then I just kind of, I revisited it a couple of times to try and see if there was some way that I could make it work for me. And I always ended up on the event screen and the tree, you know, where the layout properties are and the add new fields and all that stuff. But this looks like it has like a lot of value, actually.
I think that was another reason why I wanted to wait a couple of years to work with the workflow engine because I knew it was going to change more in those first couple of years. I think it's still changing, right? And the new UI is going to change things a whole bunch. We haven't talked about that, but like, you know, moving tabs around, fields around, that's going to not even be a workflow thing anymore,
Oh,
right?
really? All the crap I learned is going
well,
yeah.
I just think it's going to be very different. I don't know if you've seen the new UI demo, but it's already available. I don't know how long it's going to take them, maybe another year or two before the whole product's on it. So it's kind of, I have a similar philosophy there. It's like, all right, let's wait until the thing is fully developed
Viable.
before I care about it. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I also had a question like you did about here, object from event or parameter from event. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
And it looks like in this case, I can't even select that parameter.
Yeah. As soon as you changed it from script to triggered by field change, it auto checked and then it disabled the parameter.
Gotcha. Yeah, and code's great, but like you were saying, code is just like, what are all these? And like what's out of the box is mostly header level stuff as far as I've been able to tell.
Yeah, I didn't find much use case for them. So you probably have to change that back. Oh, you didn't save. Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't say it, but yeah, looks like I'm good. So yeah, we're saying if we change the category, we want it to write the category to the field on the bottom.
Okay.
So then I publish a lot. I have a higher tolerance for publishing, I think, in a live broadcast than you do. So I'm going to go ahead and publish. And what I want to show is that it's not going to do anything yet, but I just want to step through it.
Okay.
So you can see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine how this would work in concert with or independently from the actions and from the workflow for that matter.
It, as far as I can tell, it doesn't. So we're going to have to add workflow to get it to do something. We've just created an event handler, but it's
Okay.
not, nothing's going to happen at this point.
So then similar to the action condition field, although I don't know if I can't remember if you can do an auto run on the event handler. Maybe you can.
Oh, good question.
That would be cool if you could actually.
Oh, let's find out. Although the auto run still was only happening on save, wasn't it? So that wouldn't save us.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the
All right,
reason
so
why
we've got.
it has to like verify that it's in that state, which it does only when you save. So that's probably why.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just what the reason why I was optimistic about Event Handler is because of the like row updating, row inserted things that are available in the code,
Right.
which I thought were event handlers, but maybe I have the name wrong there. All right, so I pick a category now, and let's go ahead and do the save.
Okay.
Oh, I need to pick a summary testing. We'll do the save, and we can see nothing happens on the bottom. So we need to do something with this event handler. It doesn't do anything by itself. So we need to go do a workflow. Now, in your case, you were on a screen that already had workflows, right? So you
Oh,
like
I see how this is going to look.
extended an existing one, right? But in this case, I'm just going to add a new one, and I'm going to do the status field as my state identifier. I'm going to add a workflow because this screen doesn't have one already, and I'm just going to go with default, and I'll go ahead and activate it while I'm in here. Then we'll go into the workflow. And since the states are based on the task status, which is these options here,
Right.
the status, we're going to add a predefined state because it knows what those status states are. And similar to what you were doing, I'm going to use the open state. All right, so I've got a state now. So when a task is open, I want something to happen. And on the state properties, I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to take that same activity details and I'm going to give it a default value.
Oh, so you can see the change.
Yeah, well, just so we can see two different things happen. So I'm not doing the change part yet. Let's publish this and we'll see the default value.
So it feels very much like the event handlers uh, acts an awful lot like the combination of action and conditions together.
That is a good
Does
point.
that make
So
sense?
then what's the use for them? Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
that's a good question. I don't know
Yeah.
except for I think maybe the difference might be where you can use both. So with the I have a feeling that the auto run is only going to work on the actions, and the event handlers can also drive what state you're moving into and out of. Maybe that's the difference. I'd have to play around with it to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I was hoping the difference would be that event handlers could detect changes before a save. But from what I've seen, it's not the case.
Yeah, that is
So I'm going to do a new one. I'm going to make this test, and you can see as soon as I did new, it put a default value down here.
okay.
So test 01. So we've got that part going for us. We still though don't have. If I change the category and save, nothing happens when we change it. So then we go back and we'll do up here on the handlers. We're going to link our change category handler to this workflow state. and that's it. Now, to your point about like auto run, etc., I don't know. We need to experiment with that. But all I had to do was link the handler to the state.
Yeah, I think it feels very much like the handler has the built-in action and condition versus doing the action and condition separately. Like I'm not sensing, at least now, anything that's new about the handlers that gives me an edge in something, at least that I can identify at this stage. Does that make sense? I'm kind of
And that would make sense from the standpoint of you said it wasn't really there early on,
right.
right? And it is sort of like doing two things in one step because you had to create an action and then a condition. It's sort of like taking care of both. So it's simpler, but maybe more limited, but easier, maybe.
Maybe easier, yes. And maybe it's
Unless
easier
you
to
had to come
drive
up
a
with.
transition that way than it is to do it with actions because so here's what I've noticed though is that in the actions you have a couple of states that are available in the action. So you have a field that says hold, and so the action can be hold equals true. But then when you create another uh, state, it doesn't add that state to the available action field. So I can't add a state called pre-shipping and then go into the action and say pre-shipping equals true. Does that make sense? Maybe the
Oh,
handler can make up some of that slack. Like I'm kind of getting the sense that
interesting.
they both might have their little advantages and disadvantages, and
Hmm.
but I think I've been missing potential solutions by not going back to the event handler. So I'm glad you're showing this.
All right, cool. Yeah, similar how you showed me the dropping a container on a field to pseudo VLOOKUP on stuff.
Yeah.
So let's see if this works now. So now I'm going to change this to red category and save. And you can see it's giving me the database value for it. It's meaningless, but you can see it did something. If I change it to urgent and save, it's giving me the code for that drop down value.
Right.
But it is doing something.
Again, acting on the save though.
But acting on the save, yes. And I would really love to find a way to do this not on the save.
Yeah, I will commit to you right now that if I find a way to do it, I'll let you know. Please let me know
Awesome.
like
Love it.
directly
Love it.
because that to me is I don't want to call it the holy grail, but that opens up the door to so many more things that you can do if you can find a way to make that happen. I think.
Yeah, and it may just be that's when you need code because that's when you really need to be in the graph and that's all the stuff that
Yeah,
code brings to you. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. So I do have another example. This one's a little longer, but I think it's cooler.
okay.
I don't know if you're up for it.
Sure.
So this one's actually from a client where they wanted to, on the purchase order screen, so let me pull that up.
For those of you that have been looking at the side of my face for whatever, I have a camera over here and I have my screen over here. So I haven't figured out
And,
I haven't figured out how to do both of them together.
and since I started sharing my screen, you're like way over on the left.
I
Yeah,
will,
I'm doing
yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
So what they wanted to do was, I even have the number I was using written down here. Bear with me. Here we go. So they've got someone in charge of their logistics. They have their own fleet of trucks, and this person arranges shipping a product out to their customers using that fleet of trucks. But every now and then, and increasingly so, which is why it's become a pain point, this person also gets asked to arrange shipping on stuff that's coming in from vendors. And so the workflow that made sense to them was, hey, if the buyer, when they're on the purchase order screen, could somehow store something they call the delivery number from the vendor. And then somehow this logistics person would get notified that they need to do something. They would have the delivery number and they could take action on it.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a separate customization project. We're going to customize the purchase order screen.
So then the idea is that you're going to add a field that they manually check, and then that triggers something, or is it more complicated than that?
It's going to be a little more elegant than that. So what we could do is we could have like a user defined field, or add a field to the screen that would do that, right?
Right.
What I Well, actually, yeah. I'll get there. I'm going to step through it, kind of like what I did last time. So first thing I'm going to do is add an action, and the logistics person's name is Charlie. So I'm going to call this Charlie in honor of Charlie.
It'd be kind of a cool thing. Can I talk while you do that, or
Yeah. Go
do you need
ahead.
silence?
Go ahead.
I was thinking it might be really cool if we had like one of these sessions, like every now and again, and people could bring their problem children to the table, and then we could all kind of figure out a solution together.
Agreed. Totally my style.
That would be
I would love
that would be fun.
I would love that. So all I did was add an action called Charlie. Use the workflow type. You're of course familiar with this. And I'm going to just publish it in steps just so we can see the steps happen, even though there's a delay between the publishes. And I was thinking we kind of have to be like baseball announcers, where there's a lot of stops in play and you have to tell stories.
That's funny. So I think
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that your system, your local system is quite speedy, and I think my shyness with publishing is just because I'm used to having Teams and other things on my computer kind of slow things down. What I did find is that the SaaS environment that Acumatica gave me is really fast, so maybe I'll do more publishing on my second session. It doesn't seem to be as painful as I imagined it might be for the
I did, especially if you get the screens warmed up, it's not too bad, right? And then you do have to have a speedy machine. Like I've got a 32 gig RAM. I find is the main bottleneck. I've got a 32 gig RAM machine, and it runs well. All right, so I refreshed the purchase order screen, and we now have this button called Charlie. Now, I think you covered this type of stuff in your webinar, but since we added an action, I'm just going to come back here. You can see this one's real simple. I'm not doing anything with the action yet. I just created an action.
Right.
And whether it shows up here or whether it shows up in this, what I call the 3-dot area, what Arlene Welty calls the ellipsis area, more grammatically correct. It depends on, you have control over that, right? So you can say display on the toolbar if available, always, or hide, which puts it in the 3 dots area, right? And then your connotation, what do you think about? I wish these were just colors.
I do too.
That's all it does, right?
Yeah, well, that is kind of a built-in. Yeah, it's a color icon combo.
So I think primary would make it green, like this one is.
Yeah.
Warning might make it yellow. Danger is probably red. I don't know, but to me, at the end of the day, all I care about is picking a color for the button.
Yeah, I've planned on trying to carve out some time so that I can find in the layout properties where I can change the color.
I mean, other than this?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like a field on the screen itself.
Okay.
And speaking of which, you know how they have that question mark right next to, that's the new thing. Do you have any idea how you can edit that?
Question mark. What are you talking about?
So next to so go to like one of the screens, like the purchase order screen.
Here, 1 second. Let me do this.
Yeah, when you get there, that's fine. Just continue. When you get there, I'll remember.
Oh no, I wasn't going to do anything else here. No, so that's good. Let's do that. So we already published this. We can see we have a Charlie button. We'll pick that back up in a second. But let's say we want to look at the screen itself, like this.
No,
and maybe we want to change the color
in the screen itself. Yeah.
So like, let's say we want, where's description? Is it probably in that first column, right? Did I miss it? Here it is. So you want me to go somewhere like here?
Yeah. Do you know how to do it?
Change the color?
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh.
Are you going to tell me?
Oh no, that's I was no, I was.
This is what you want to carve out, right?
That's what I want.
Uh,
Yeah.
let's see.
Like there's a hover.
Let's do a quick look. I'm just to expand all of these and then do a
Yeah.
control F.
I saw blur. Maybe it's by the blur.
Back color? It's probably what we want, right? Fore color?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
it's probably one of Acumatica's like standard orange thingy, like from the.
let's see if red works. I love this kind of sidebar stuff. This is the way to learn stuff.
It would be cool is if instead of putting red, I bet you could probably put in a condition in there. I just don't know what the formatting would be, you know?
Yeah, it's too flat. You might need to be in the workflow engine to get
Yeah.
conditions, right?
Right.
If this doesn't work, I'm going to try a hex value.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I would actually prefer the hex value because then I could do whatever color I want, not just some unknown list of colors.
Right. So while this is happening, if you go into like the, I don't know, like the service order.
The screen
Oh,
or
yeah.
within
Sorry, I'm
customization
looking at
project?
mine. Like, yeah, like the purchase order screen.
Here?
Yeah. So you know how, like, if you hover over currency, not the currency itself, the value, the label itself, the currency. See that question mark?
Oh, that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering
I
if
don't know how they
there's
do
a
those.
place
Do you
to
know?
edit. No, no. I would like to be able to edit it because I would like to use it for other reasons.
Yes. I've wondered that too. I don't know.
It's probably a wiki thing sitting somewhere, I would imagine.
Yeah, how it knows where to go in this specific wiki page. I've been wondering that too. So I don't see anything happen. What did we do? We did back color, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to try my hex and then move on. 3991.
I
I'm going to
wonder if
do.
it's like an HTML, which would be the hex, right?
Yeah, I think there's also there's a RGB values. So there's also like there's a different one for
You know, I bet
HTML
if you took like
also.
a website field, you know, a website page, and then you looked at the
The actual HTML behind
yeah,
it.
the expect element, yeah, you might be able to find some.
It's all done in the CSS though, I think. So you'd have to then get into the classes and go look up the CSS
Yeah, but I'm just
file.
talking about the color, just to see how they've described the color in there, and then use that.
I see.
That's my reverse engineering mind, since
But yeah, a lot of these CSS things are real messy. So you'd have to go to the CSS document, I think, and then look up that element in the CSS document,
yeah.
right? So did I publish this yet? I don't even remember. Just in case I did, I'm gonna refresh. Let's assume I didn't. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm with you on colors. Adding colors adds a lot of value to help people spot things quickly and move through things quickly,
Yeah.
especially on a noisy screen.
Right. The other way that I've thought about doing it is that moving the key fields and grouping them together. But there's such a high time element with that it doesn't justify.
Like having a box around type and order number or something like that.
Yeah, so if you use the three things that you do the most, like you're going to do pick the type, order number, do the date, and then maybe do a description or something.
I see.
You know
Put
what I
them
mean?
together.
Yeah, put them all together as a group
Yeah.
and move the ones that are just informational off to the side somewhere, like the currency. Don't really need that. Um, but
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
but kind of reconstructing a page just takes a lot of time. It's just
yeah.
and then the return on investment from a customer's perspective is probably fairly little. So then,
And I think that's where the new UI is going to make that a whole lot easier. You do it right on the
oh,
screen
that would be cool.
without even using a customization project.
Drag and drop move. So is that out on uh,
Yeah. So actually,
two
since we're on the topic,
24?
since you haven't seen it, let's sidebar on that. You can see it. I'm on 2024 R1 here,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe it's here. Is it this? Yeah. So on the sitemap, because they're still working through in this multi-year endeavor, making the new UI usable on every screen, you decide on a screen by screen basis right now whether it's using the classic or the modern UI. Oh, and it's not there.
Is that only on the 24s? That's not on the 23s, right?
I think they first introduced it in 23 R1, and there's a trick you have to do to turn it on. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
So what was that? Can you show it to me again? Oh, the category.
Well,
No.
it's not right. It's not there. I thought it was.
Okay.
How do I turn it on? Give me a second. I'm just Googling. I think I put it in a post somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Okay. And thanks to Yuri for pointing this out. Here, I'll drop this in the comments. So it's actually sitting there even in 23 R1. And the way you turn it on is here. So let's go to the web config file for this instance that I'm using.
All right. So if you're SaaS, then you can will Acumatica do that for you?
Good question. I don't know. I know in general they'll make changes to this for you, so I don't see why they wouldn't for SaaS. But yeah, I think you have to ask them to
But
do that.
unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to turn it on and then easily turn it off.
Yeah, I think they're eventually going to have that in the front end, right? This is just a pretty new thing.
All right.
It might even be in the front end in 24R1. I don't know. But this should work. At least we can get it shown here.
Oh, so you can actually flip it on then, and then turn it on again, screen by screen.
Correct. Yeah, this is just making it available. It was like super
Got it.
hidden at this time. Yeah, you're not really affecting anything by
Okay.
adding this.
Is that because it's not vetted? It's unreliable.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like they wanted at the time. This was a year ago. They wanted to make it hard to get. Is this how I interpret it?
Right. Yeah, but
I
for a
don't know.
reason, right? Because they weren't confident of it, or
I think
use at
that
your
was my
own
impression.
peril. Kind of.
Exactly.
I never liked those when they're like, "Yeah, it's pretty good. We think it's going to work." No, I'll wait until it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the new versions. You got customers. They're like, "Yeah, we got a new version out. We want to go to it." No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't want to go to it. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Trust me. We'll
Wait
probably be
a
rolling
few
it back
months.
as soon as we go there. So
Exactly.
I think everybody probably goes through that one time in their career, where they anxiously get on the newest and latest, and then they realize what a mistake that was, and they never do it again.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. So it's got to recycle the IIS. It's spinning. Just give it a moment.
But it sounds to me like it's just going to add a column in the sitemap, and then you can switch it, and then
Yep, exactly. But let's pull up the sales order screen. We can just give a quick look at how much easier it's going to be to move stuff around.
Do you have everything loaded on this version? Like, do you have field service on here?
Probably because I just have the sales demo data set, so I could probably turn it on.
Because if you're going to go through this, I'm dying to know how it affects the calendar board. The calendar board for field service is really like you
Oh,
can't
did
even customize that screen.
did you see them? Did you see Mike C demo it at the last summit a few months ago?
No, I didn't.
The new calendar board. It looked really good.
Well,
I haven't tried it. Let's
it's
see.
a new calendar board or the new field service.
The new calendar board using the new UI.
Oh, wow. Well, if they're
It's called
showing
like.
it, then it's got to be great.
It must be ready, right?
No,
I wouldn't count on
it's a
that.
pain point for
Oh,
anybody
if they highlighted it, yeah, 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 yeah.
for anybody
So it
in
looks good.
field service. It's a huge pain point.
Okay, so now you can see how I can flip between these, right? So
Um,
I know the sales order screen is there. Let's try that on the calendar board. Calendar board. So let's turn on the modern one for sales orders. And then is it just called calendar board?
yep,
This
yep.
one? I'm going to do sales orders first just because for our audience, if there's anyone left today, as we already looked at a sales order screen, so it's more fresh in our minds. Let's now look
You
at it
know,
in the new UI.
if you have a chance to add some prologue to this,
I won't,
I would
but
definitely go
do
and
it now.
say if like this is definitely worth your time to sit through all of this because there are enough gold nuggets in this session. Because sometimes you like get into it and you're watching something and you're like, okay, this might be too technical or it might be too or maybe they're being too broad, but I think we've hit on a lot of really interesting things today.
I do too. And it's free, so you just have to do the work to find those gold nuggets.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it looks like Jeff's saying you should not need to change the config file. I thought so as well. And actually, I wonder if it was here. I remember seeing it somewhere. Let's
Yeah, but
see.
that's R1, right? The 24 R1.
Yes, the latest 24. It
Yeah.
might have been here. Like if I'm going to deploy a new instance, that might have been where I saw it. Now, this is still a server side tool, right? Um, so you wouldn't be able to do this in a SaaS environment, but I think I saw it here. Yeah, here we go. See this?
Yeah.
I think they have this in the installer now where it will effectively put it in the sitemap for
Yeah.
you.
Not for production.
But that's still, I think, for I think that's still, something on a SaaS environment you'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
Oh, he's saying he's using build 24. Let's see what build am I using here. So you didn't have to do anything to the config file. I'm on 104.0.0.0.8. You're on 105. Maybe I'm just one build away from having it there automatically. Okay. Or maybe you check that box in the install process. I don't know. Okay. Good to know. Thanks for that. So we do still have someone watching. Looks actually it says we still have 22 people watching. We're not the only geeks on a Saturday afternoon.
Apparently
All
not.
right. So here you can see totally different, right? I don't know. Have you seen the new UI at all?
I haven't.
Yet?
No.
So very different. It eats up more space, which I don't like.
I'm actually yeah.
But
My first reaction to it, I guess, is overall not positive. It looks
too spacey, right? Yeah, I feel that way. But it is nice that you can somewhere in here screen configuration. Where is it? Like in
oh, you could
here,
have
I
your own
can.
personal configuration. Oh, so you're basically
You could,
your own
yeah.
configurator for all the fields, not just the grid.
It's just like the way the grid works currently right now,
Yeah.
right? Where you can share a configuration out or have it personal. You see this, you can change the tab order, whether it's visible or not.
Right.
I don't remember what the pinned are, but super easy, right? Yeah, that's pretty nice. Here's the apply to all, resets default, etc.
I mean,
And
listen,
then you were
maybe at
interested.
the end of the day, if you start off with this, then that's good. There's something about it that feels hokey, I guess. I don't know if that's the right, not hokey, but
Maybe they were making it for like cartoonish
Yeah.
to card. Maybe they were trying to make it better for a tablet or something. I don't know.
Well, that could be it too. Yeah, it might be more friendly for all of those. Functionally, I'm sure that there's a lot of great
So does
benefits
this
for
look
it.
different to you?
Yes,
This
totally.
part? It's totally. And what was cool about it, I actually grabbed. Oh, that's right. So it's on my list to get Mike C on my podcast to talk about this because we started talking about this on my podcast at the summit, and I messed up my audio recording and it wasn't actually recording. But he was describing how this whole thing is like it's very customizable. I can't remember all the details, but it's like it's way more than it just looks good. It's very
Yeah,
functional in terms of you being able to use these same elements and build your own whatever type of thing. So, anyways, it sounded really cool.
yeah. I actually had to go in and change like the CSS file in order to change the color configuration on it. So there was like, yeah, there's like a little calendar board preferences, but it's fairly limited, and
Yeah,
it's a
this is a
huge piece.
total revamp of that. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
looks awesome.
Okay, so let me flip back to so new UI, way different, and that's gonna how much that's gonna change the workflow engine. I don't know. We'll find out, right? But again, I think we're a year or two away from having to care about that. So
Yeah,
it's let's stay grounded here. So I'm going to come back to my example,
yeah. So you created Charlie. That was just an action, right? That didn't do
and
anything.
it does nothing. So now I want creating Charlie to create a task. So let's do, and here's where I'm actually going to use a business event for this. And to your point, I think the downs in this case it's not a huge downside, and you'll see why.
Okay.
So I'm going to create a business event called Charlie. I'm going to associate it with the purchase order screen.
Well, I'll tell you the one. Let me think about this for a second.
Here, while you think about that, I'm gonna flesh this up part out. So I'm doing Charlie business event on the purchase order screen. I'm triggering it by the action, and I'm picking my Charlie action, the one that I just created. So we created an action with the workflow, or not even the workflow, with just a customization project.
Right.
It did nothing. We only did it so the business event could reference it. And then we're going to go on the subscribers, and oh, looks like I already did it. Then we're going to create this task. We're going to tell it to create a task, and it's got a bunch of stuff in here, but I called the task template Charlie. I'm going to set the owner to Charlie. You can use formulas in like the summary of it. So I'm going to include the PO number
Right.
in the summary. We're going to have it automatically attach the task to the purchase order. And then what I really like about using tasks is that tasks are available everywhere
They are.
in Acumatica,
And
right?
you can assign it to or attach it to all the different entities.
Right. It's just there. And so what I really like is that I can then put all this information in the task, right? Based off of whatever got filled out on the screen. So let me actually take that one off temporarily. But I'm just going to show the vendor and the buyer to start with. And then let me do one more thing on the task settings. It looks like I already did it. I'm going to set the start date equal to, I just went into the pencil icon, date time, and I picked today. And anything else? No, that's it. Oh, and I was thinking I have to publish, but I don't. So I'll just go ahead and pause it. Did you, whatever you were thinking of, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Oh no, that's exactly. I was just chuckling over the fact that my brain was waiting for you to publish too.
Hey, I was thinking I'll wait and let him bring it up when I'm publishing, but
Right.
I don't have to do that. So that's it. You just do that, and now it should create a task now when this action gets pressed. Now, while we're in here, one thing I am not sure
Oh, I see.
why
Okay, so
I would.
yeah, I was confused for a second.
I didn't do this. Sorry, it was create subscriber task. That's how that got created.
Right, what you're doing, yeah, yeah, you're triggering it by, but they're actually uh, clicking on Charlie. For them, it's like I'm creating a task by clicking on Charlie,
Correct.
and then this is going to notify Charlie that he has to do something. But for the user, it's just one click, boom, and this whole thing happens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I really wish we had here is the ability to trigger an import scenario to go off and do something. It's grayed out when we do trigger by action. I'm not sure why, but it might have to do with that time delay. I don't know. But that would be really cool if I could then
Well, could it have something
go
to do with the
trigger an
screen?
import scenario. Say again?
I said, could it have something to do with the screen? In other words, have you tried to do it with like a GI as a screen and not an actual screen?
I know a GI can do it. But yeah, the screen, it looks like cannot. I don't know why.
Okay.
But now that I've created that business event, I guess I had already created it, so I could have done this earlier. But now I'll be able to hit this Charlie button. Right now you can see there's no activities on this purchase order. But if I click this Charlie button, the Charlie button then causes the business event to fire. And if I refresh the screen, we can see up here there's now an activity. So I can click on it. Here's the task.
So if you click on the
And
Charlie and then you have it update a field.
I think you would need to do the workflow engine for that. I'm using the business event. So I was
Yeah,
limited to what I could do. I could only
I'm
do
still
these
stuck
things.
on I'm still stuck on the caching thing. I'm trying to find a way around that. That's all.
Oh, I see. I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, so this doesn't solve that. But in this case, I'm okay with the time delay because I'm not modifying anything on the purchase order, right? So I don't run into that competitive save situation.
Right.
It's just going and creating a task, which isn't going to interfere with anything.
Yeah.
But I really like this because now it's a one-click way for the buyer to put something on Charlie's plate. And I love that I can drop whatever data elements I want in here, right? It's basically like auto crafting an email for you and giving Charlie all the relevant data that he needs to go perform this task.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that I find myself when I'm kind of thinking about these and constructing them, I to the detriment of what it is that I'm trying to do, I always try to find some way to automate it and make it happen without any interaction whatsoever. And it's a mistake, and I can't seem to get myself out of that initial loop. And I think that if my approach to trying to solve some of these issues started with some kind of a user interaction, and then if that didn't work, then I go to some kind of an automated solution to it, that I might be better off. Because I'm always trying to think, how do you make this completely simple? So in this example right here, it would be, okay, how can I have that automatically triggered so that he doesn't have to click on Charlie? But really, at the end of the day, I think most of these solutions are just easy enough when the user's sitting there staring at the screen and things are happening to have them just go ahead and just start the process, right? And not only
Yeah,
that, but now they know that it's happened. They know that they've done it. And they're not relying on some spoofy thing happening in the background. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
I have two thoughts on that. One is I like starting with manual to start with, so that it's not some mysterious thing that happens. And then
Yeah.
if manual works for everyone and they start to tell you, hey, I'm doing this on every single one, can you automate it? Now you know they're ready for it, right?
Right.
But in this case, I want it to be manual because only like 1% of the purchase orders are going to need this, because it's rare that Charlie's going to have to arrange shipping from a vendor. It's mostly his shipping is out to customers.
Yeah.
So I want the buyer to decide, okay, this is unusual purchase order. I want to put it on Charlie's plate. It's not for every purchase order.
No, I mean, I'm just, I'm thinking of a specific use case that I was talking to a customer about just not only a couple of days ago, but they're on their opportunity screen. A technician goes in there, they do their thing, and now it's time for purchasing to get involved and to figure out some costs, and then the tech has to go back in there and do some stuff. So then the question always is, okay, well, how do we trigger that? What's the best way? Well, we can send an email, we can create a task, we can put it on the dashboard, kind of thing. But then you start thinking about, well, what are the triggers? So what if they actually don't need it to happen because they already have the cost? They're just putting a labor charge on there and they don't need any of that stuff happening. And so my mind is always thinking about, okay, yeah, what happens in those conditions? But really, at the end of the day, all I need to do is just to put an action on there and say,
Gotcha.
right, yeah, when you're done, you're the tech. You know if they need to get involved or not. Just click on that button, it creates a task or it does something, and then we can go ahead and we can notify them. So I'm saying that
And
your little example.
you solve 90% of the pain by doing that. You don't worry about the last mile.
Well,
Just
exactly. Not only that, but now you
yeah,
don't have to
yeah.
sit there and figure out, all the different iterations of some kind of a condition, right?
Yeah.
And all the complexity that's involved in that. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
but that's kind of I always have to pull myself back from the ledge a little bit when I tend to overcomplicate because I'm trying to overdo, when sometimes you just need to do the bare minimum or just the basics, and then that works.
And then you iterate from there. And that's what I like about the low code, no code. It's like, see if they like it and then go from there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you can always make it better. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the Charlie button creates this. And then what I also love about tasks is that, Charlie, now I'm actually logged in as Charlie. So it just shows up on that task screen, right? No matter where it came from, Charlie's got it on his task list.
Right.
And in this case, I assigned it to Charlie specifically. So you're going to see it right here with today's date on it. But you could also assign it to a work group. You have to set up the company tree for that. But you could do like assign it to the logistics department. And then that could be one filter. It could be like logistics tasks that are not assigned to an individual yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then people could go review that queue. You could have 3 people looking at the queue, and then they could still put their own name on them, and it would move it over to my tasks and maybe move it off of the unassigned logistics task, something like that.
I've started to use
I love the way
tasks
tasks
more than I did in the past. And what I like most about it is that it can automatically, like, you create a dashboard that has the tasks on it, and now you're adding new things, but the tasks are, you don't have to update all those different pieces. You know what I mean? You're just, here's another idea for another task. Well, it's going to automatically show up in their task on their dashboard.
Agreed. Yeah. I forget does the sales demo one have that out of the box?
I don't think so.
Somewhere?
No, the task piece. No, they have everything else, like the leads, the opportunities. I don't recall anyway seeing the tasks. Like a sales.
Yeah, you're talking about some like
probably, or a salesperson, one of those two.
Yeah, some nice little widget that just tells you how many tasks are sitting in your queue, right?
Correct.
And that just, no matter where they came from, it just increments that number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And then if you have to separate it out, then that's another thing.
And I also like how the task, so if you got to it from this screen, or if you got to it from your dashboard widget and you open up the task, I like how it's got, because we had it attach it to the purchase order by doing the, this thing here.
Oh, you applied it to the entity?
Yeah, the attached to entity.
Yeah.
We got it on both sides. So this checkbox gave it to us when we're looking at the purchase order. We know there's a task, but also if we drilled into the task from our dashboard, we've got a link back to the purchase order. So we got one click to go to the relevant purchase order. I like that. It just works really well.
Do you happen to know if there's a way to get it to the vendor record? Can you add additional entities too? I don't recall seeing that.
I know with an imports? With the old school import scenario method, there was a way to do that. Looks like here it's just a check.
Well, yeah, like if you're sending it, yeah. I was thinking like an email thing. But, yeah.
Oh, maybe the email too. Here, if we come back here, we do an email notification. Here you go. Yeah, you have options here. You have, where's our, I don't know why we don't have link to entity, but you do have link to account. So you could attach it to the vendor if you were sending an email.
Right. Right.
So I like that. Let me take a little bit further. How are you? Are we okay on time still?
Well, not, yeah, I'm going to have to,
We're running out.
I'm going to have to sew this one up, unfortunately. Um, Probably in the next 8
I'm going to do
minutes if
this.
we can, but I'd love to have another one.
Let me finish off. Let's see. Is this one that crazy? This one's not that crazy. Let me finish off this thought
All
here.
right.
We can wrap it up. So we created a task, but then there's also, in this case, they needed to include the delivery number from the vendor. So, and here's what we were talking about. We would want like just a widget that shows our number of tasks on our plate. But if I come back here, I want to include the delivery number. So let me see if I can do this all just in one pass. Have you done anything with dialog boxes yet in the workflow engine?
I have, and I find them interesting and aggravating at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I've had success with date fields, and I haven't had success with some other ones. So I don't. I wish I could use them more. I would like to use them as a way to communicate, actually.
Okay.
So I want to take something from the screen. I want to put it in somebody's face. I want to make them make a decision on it. That's the use case that I've used.
So my use case here is the opposite.
Okay.
So first I'm going to start off with the dialogue, and then I'll show why I like the dialogue. So I'm first just going to add a user defined field. I think you've mentioned this earlier. You're a big fan of these. I am also. So I'm going to add, I already created one called PO delivery number. It's just a text field. And I added the user defined field to the purchase order. So now what I have the ability to do, and I'm going to tell it, go back to my business event.
You want to hear something funny? So when I'm doing and working with customers, and I tend to move things like really fast, just like you do.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm, and they can't keep up, and I don't sometimes don't realize I'm doing it. And there are times where they don't really need to track what I'm doing and where I'm going to click on things, but they'll say, "Hey, you're moving too fast. Can you slow down?" You're moving so fast in here, but I can keep up with you because my mind is already going to wherever it is that you're headed to click. Like you did the new, grabbed a tab, moved it over. Like in my mind, I was doing the exact same thing.
That's awesome. Well, good. I'm glad you weren't like, oh, this guy is so inefficient the way he's navigating.
No, I get it. Yeah.
And I like that this is recorded, right? People can slow it down if they want.
Yeah.
And so I love that the user defined fields just automatically show up. And so I can add this information to the body of the task here. So now when I go back and I click the Charlie button, once this saves,
So
it's now going to create a second task. But, oh, sorry, I need to do this first. So I'm going to just call this like ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So that has to exist on the purchase order record. Now I'll click my Charlie button. And so this most recent task that it created has got down here the delivery number, right?
Yep.
So that's cool. But I don't like that user defined fields are like hiding on this other tab here.
Yeah. So you can
and then
actually,
there's stuff down here. Do you know how to move them over?
yeah, you can move them out into the front.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
in the customization project, so there's the user-defined fields are sitting usually below the main form, and you can move them. Now, what you want to do sometimes, like if it's in a grid, it'll bring the whole grid with it, so you have to kind of like splice it up a bit. But I think in the case of the one that you just did right there, you should be able to just drag and drop it into like a new column.
Okay, I'm going to play with that later because I want to get you out the door here. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, just jump into a screen and I'll show you. I mean,
I do. Okay, so I should see it on this purchase order screen, right? Because I just added
correct.
one.
Yeah, so in the data source at the top.
Okay.
Do okay, go below that, the form document then. It's sitting underneath that one. See the user defined fields down below?
Okay. I
So,
can just drag, you think?
well, yeah, that's what I've been doing. I just drag and drop it. Oh, it doesn't like that. Um,
Okay. I'll have to play with that.
yeah, maybe, do me a favor and just click on the column. Yeah.
This
Okay.
and see what that.
Yeah, click on the user defined fields. It's been a while since I do it.
Oh, this one. Okay. I'm not getting anything here.
And
Do I get something here? Do I get something here?
yeah, I'd have to go
Yep.
back and look at one of my customization projects where I moved it down there. But I
Okay. All right.
100% know you can do it. So I'm not sure if
So
I would.
even if I can, I still this screen is still really noisy, right? And I like the dialog boxes because I pop up just the relevant information that I want from the user, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to add that piece in here. So I'm going to go in and do a dialog box. We'll add one. I'm going to call it. I'm going to stick with our Charlie naming convention. I'm going to give it a schema field of order description just because I want it to be a text field. I'm going to call it delivery number as the name. And in the title, I'll put a space.
Oh, I see. And then you're gonna have this pop up with the Charlie,
And I'm going to have it required.
and then you're gonna add this to the action, and then
And
when you click it, it jumps up and he fills it out. Yeah, that's the kind of use case that I've seen for the dialog boxes as well. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can edit the Acumatica dialog boxes too. They're sitting at the bottom of the tree.
Here?
No, if you click on the purchase order screen itself, and we're looking at all that piece right there. See
Okay.
the down at the bottom? It says.
Oh, I did not know
So
that.
now you can
Never
open up
really
one of
messed with that.
those, and you can
Oh,
move or add, and you can add those to the fields over on the left, and then make it required, or you can hide it. You
I
can
did
add
not know
fields to
that.
there. So yeah,
Okay.
I've
Yeah,
only had
you
to
were
do it a
already
couple of times.
the dialog box itself doesn't do anything, but yeah, I got to come back to the action, and then I'm going to tell it when I click the Charlie button, I want it to update that user defined field that I created on the user defined fields tab with the value from the dialog box. So if you click in here, you get on the very bottom, or maybe it's not on the bottom, somewhere in here. Oh, right. First, I need to link it to the dialog box. So I need to tell it this
Yeah.
action needs to be linked to the dialog
I thought
box.
you were going to do that afterwards. But yeah, that brings the field in. Right.
Then on the very bottom, I've got Charlie delivery number. So this is going to be the value that they fill out on the pop-up. And we will publish this.
I tell you where this has helped me a lot is just thinking about how to construct these.
It seems like we think a little differently. It seems like you think from the technical possibility side and go over to the use
I
case, and
do.
I think in
I
reverse. Is that
do.
right?
I do. Well, so
I love that. Then we meet in the middle.
but the more I learn, the more I find myself doing it the other way as well. I think part of that stems from my lack of understanding of what my limits are. So unfortunately,
Yeah, good point. You need to know what your options are before you can tackle the use case,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you there. And it is kind of, you sort of chew it from both sides, right?
I do,
Yeah. Not totally
and
linear. And that's what makes it fun. I feel like you're constantly moving.
yeah, I tend to kind of approach it with um, I can do it until I've proven to myself that I can't as well.
Yep. I like that optimism.
Well, it's optimism. Some people might call it belligerence, but it's probably a combination of the two.
I like to say there's a fine line between being optimistic and being naive.
Yeah, exactly.
So here, we'll just round it off and then we can wrap it up here. So right now we had a value of this, right? But I love this Charlie button now pops up this dialog box. And I just love how clean it is. I've got a lot of stuff going on the screen, but now it pops up with only the information that I need for Charlie. And if I put in a different value here, DEF something like that. Click OK. The dialog box now set the user defined value, and the business event actually picks up the user defined value, not the dialog box directly,
Right.
but it picks up the user defined value. And in the most recently created task, once this refreshes, we can see there's our new DEF value. Well, I think that's all I had. Thanks for hanging on for that. We made it 2.5 hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, that was great. That was great. I really do. I really do kind of love the idea of having having a group of people that you can go to and say, here's a base case. What do you guys think? And then we can kind of put our experiences together and maybe come up with a solution. I think that would be great. I mean, that happens to me a lot where I just think, God, I wish I had somebody I could call.
No, I feel the same way. Let's think about that. I think it all comes down to time, right? I mean, when we do it, and I think we just line up the two of us like we did today. That it worked out for both of us Saturday afternoon, and then whoever else can come live, and whoever can't, watch the recording.
I'll get my other camera to actually work. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I just didn't have. It didn't dawn on me until like 2 minutes before we were about to go on. So,
well, like you said, I think we had enough nuggets here. It makes it worth people's while to take a look at.
I believe so, and yeah, is there going to be a link to this? Because then I can put it in the thing that I do on at the end of the month too, the other webinar.
Yeah, so right here behind our pictures, ogforums.com/live. What will happen there? Let me share my screen again. If you go to ogforums.com/live, currently it will show the actual live broadcast. So like this is live as of a few seconds ago. And eventually I'll move this down to the bottom here where you'll see it in the past broadcast link.
Oh, cool. So I'll just put that ogforums.com live thing on the...
Yeah, like having just one landing page. And then if we do another one of these, it's just all in one place. Simple URL.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
All right, well, listen.
Well, hey, David, thanks again for 2.5 hours of your time on a Saturday afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for reaching out. I was very, very happy that you did, and I'm glad that we got a chance.
Awesome. We'll see about doing it again. Have a great rest of your day. All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.